Alright, in this one, I just want to go over my local Bitcoin levels and just kind of what I'm looking at with Bitcoin now that we are, in my opinion, looking a little bit more bearish after, having fallen out of this range and now rejecting off the value area low as a retest on the higher time frames. And considering what some of the higher time frames are looking like on Market Cipher. So since my last video, we have fallen back down outside of the macro value area low, which is somewhere around this area. It's not important exactly where it is. It's just kind of this general area, and we tried to reclaim it here, but we were unable to hold support inside of here. We fell out of it, kind of back tested it here for resistance, and are now falling lower. And some of the higher time frames, like I said, on Market Cipher are looking a little bit more bearish now. I'll just run through those quickly. 4-hour money flow is thick in the red, and I mean, this momentum wave is coming down pretty far. Usually when the momentum wave looks like this on the 4-hour, when it's not even starting to show signs of cutting off, that usually means that it has more downside potential. And I mean, it's hard to tell just looking at the 4-hour wave when it could start to clip off, but that's when you look at the lower time frames. So on the 1-hour, I mean, we are printing this green dot. This wave is very oversold. However, the money flow is continuing to make lower lows locally. It just fell back below the zero line, so it just fell back into the red. And, while this is a very oversold wave, it might mean that we might get a local bounce. It's not looking like a bottom signal necessarily. Usually, we will see those higher time frame divergences at a significant low. So if we were going to put in a bottom here and then, make a run for this range again, I probably would expect to see some sort of bottom signal, like momentum diverging at the lows with the money flow starting to creep back up after being in the red for a little bit. And yeah, this 1-hour money flow still putting in lower lows locally and just now kind of peeking into the red isn't exactly what I would want to see. And now the daily money flow has just crossed into the red, and this VWAP is curving back over, looking like we might print a red dot on this momentum wave. So the daily time frame, I would say, is starting to look pretty bearish as well, especially since we have now rejected off the value area low. And on the daily time frame, we didn't even close a candle back in this range. We only left wicks above it. So yeah, on the daily, it's really looking like we have just back tested this as resistance and could now potentially get a move lower, with the money flow now falling back into the red. It has been on a downtrend for quite a bit of time. I mean, we did locally make a higher high with money flow, maybe, it looks like. Might have been like a double top there. Nah, we kind of made a slightly higher high compared to this wave, but that isn't really that significant. And usually, you can see when the money flow turns back into the red on the daily time frame. It tends to stay there for a little bit. I mean, in this case, the money flow is in the red for 9 days. In this case, since it fell down, it was in the red for a month. Back here, each of these look like about a week as well. So usually when the money flow dips back into the red, it tends to stay there for at least a week or so. And yeah, in my opinion, I think it is now looking more bearish since we have, back tested this as resistance. We have failed to reclaim this range. Looks like price does not want to continue trading in this range anymore. So with things looking so bearish, it looks like we may start to get a further retracement to the downside. Now locally, it looks like price is pumping a little bit, so we may be approaching some of these ideas I was looking at. This is just a local idea I was looking at. We have like a 10-minute order block in the value area high and the point of control. And I guess we can watch live what happens here. The VWAP's also right there too. So potentially, if we see a large decrease of open interest there, this could still be a trade idea. I would probably want to see us either come up above the point of control and then lose it, or come up, reject off the value area high, and then lose the point of control, lose the VWAP. With a large decrease of open interest, that's probably what I'd be looking for. We do have some low time frame divs forming, it looks like. Yeah, even 1 minute money flow diverging right now. So did we already hit off that? Nah, we front ran the order block a little bit. We also front ran VWAP. So hopefully we come back up for a liquidity grab of these highs. You could also now trade this as an SFP. So if we do that, close back down below the high, then that's another strategy that you could use there. And maybe we're not going to come up and hit that level right now. Maybe we just front run it. So I got an alert set there if we come up to hit this idea. And then we'll come back to it. But for right now, let's go over the other ideas I was looking at. So firstly, I want to mention this market structure that I was looking at. So I'm calling this right now like 1 hour market structure. Here we had a bullish transition when we put in this lower low and then took out the lower high. So from here we started an uptrend, and we broke that uptrend right here when we fell back down below this last higher low, and also falling outside of the value area low of that larger range. And from here on the 1 hour, we just put in one lower low, a lower high, and now a lower low. So right now I'm looking at this as the market structure point. You could also technically look at it like this, where we already kind of put in a lower low, lower high, and lower low. Then this high up here would be the market structure point to watch. And I would say that this high up here is probably more significant, just because you can still see this structure on like the 2 hour and the 3 hour. And on these time frames, this high in here just disappears. So I would say that this high up here is more significant as a market structure point, but you could look at this high as some kind of a local market structure point, where if we close above here, we could be starting a local uptrend, and maybe that would be a reason for us to then come up to this high up here and try and break that high with a close. But the reason I say that this one is more significant is because we could start an uptrend locally here, but then still put in a lower high compared to this high up here and still continue a downtrend. So in terms of the larger term market structure here, I would want to see a close above this high, and anything below that we could still put in a lower high, or we could also come up to SFP this high. And if we do that, that might be a sign that the downtrend is going to continue as well. So looking at some resistance levels that we have before we get up to this point, I'll mark this one out just with MS. And I do have some areas of interest before we get to this market structure point. So number one would just be this high that we put in up here. That would be the high that I was looking at as being like the local market structure point. So I think this high is significant. If we SFP it and potentially SFP it into this 1 hour order block, then that could be a reason for us to come back for these lows. And I think there is a decent chance that we eventually come back for those lows, since we front ran this level I was looking at in my last video, that 1 hour order block. We did SFP this low, but we front ran the order block. Did we hit off of that golden pocket though? I kind of forgot there was a golden pocket there. Looks like we front ran the golden pocket as well, so that is good. Well, it's good if you want us to come down and make another low. That shows that that might not have been a significant low. So I would be watching this market structure point up here. Also, just in general, this 1 hour order block has some very nice confluence with it. We've got these previous day levels over here, the PD value area low and previous day point of control. Also, it is the value area low of this little range. So potentially, if we come up into this order block, reject off of the volume levels here, and then start to fall back outside of it, that might be confirmation for me that we are rejecting from this order block. And above it, there is this other order block here, which has the point of control of this range inside of it. So I think that might be significant too, if we either come up and reject off this point of control, or if we kind of break above it, but then start to fall back down below it. That's probably what I would be looking for. And the daily open is kind of right in between these two, so I don't like the placement of that, but it's something that you could pay attention to. Maybe we just gonna move outside this order block a little bit, but then start to fall back down and start to lose the PD point of control, start to lose this value area low over here. But yeah, in general, we got a lot of confluence in this area with the PD levels, with D levels in this range, and the order blocks. And if we start to break above this area, then I would probably be interested in this high, potentially SFPing it into this other 1 hour order block that we have right above it. There is also an NDPOC right at the top of this order block. And is that golden pocket still valid? Looks like we did put in another lower low, but the golden pocket 786 area is up there as well. So basically, if price gets a move above the highs of this range, then I would be looking at this high up here, potentially rejecting off this area of confluence and then losing the high, potentially SFPing it on a higher time frame. At most, I would probably call this 2 hour structure, since the 2 hours really the highest time frame where you can see that transition there, and then us put in that lower high and then a lower low. So I probably would not consider this trade if we see a 2 hour close above this high. But if we start to see 30-minute 1 hour closes below it, and it looks like the 2 hour might close below it, then that might be confirmation for me that we might be SFPing it. And if we take a look at where that value area low is placed, a move up to that market structure point could also be another rejection from that value area low area. And if we start to fall back down below it again, that might be more confluence for a move to the downside. And in terms of support levels, really the only main area I'm looking at is this order block still, because of the confluence that we have around it, the golden pocket, this value area high, and point of control. Really, this is the only area that I would be interested in longing, at least in terms of more higher term levels. If we start to form some structure here and then we break structure and get a retest, then that could be a long idea. But in terms of the levels I'm looking at, I think this order block is really it. You could also look at the lows, potentially SFPing these lows, but at that point, there really isn't much below those lows except for a lot of inefficient price action. There is this little order block type thing right here actually, so maybe you could look at this area. But my point is, there is a lot of downside potential if we start to lose these lows. So maybe I will actually have this marked out just as like the only other support we have below us. But yeah, I'd say right now I am definitely prioritizing shorts, at least so long as we are unable to reclaim that larger range. And since we have now kind of rejected from the value area low, it seems like us reclaiming it is much more unlikely now. Alright, well, that's just about everything I wanted to go over in this one, so thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Really appreciate the support, and I'll see you all in the next video.